So I'll be speaking to you guys about digital transformation as it relates to enterprise IT. But one of the things that gets me most excited about transformation is that I started my career in the kind of the late 90s, back in the dot-com days where everyone was an internet millionaire and all ideas were great. And it feels like that mood is shifting back, where there's a kind of DX is bringing sexy back to IT. And so I'm really, really excited about what's happening in the kind of the mood around IT. Specifically, what I'm going to share with you is what DX means with regards to enterprise technology, or enterprise IT. Specifically, how we transform business with acceleration and optimization of opportunities. It's not the Ubers or the Netflix major changes. It's more how we use business opportunities and challenges to kind of transform our companies, the way we do business. So as I started to prepare for this, I got a little nervous because everywhere, all I read was DX or die. Basically, if you're not transforming, you're dying. You're predator or prey. Gartner says it, IDC says it, and even MIT says that if we are not actively building digital transformation strategies, we're planning a path for failure. And this made me feel like I feel when I go on my friends' Facebook pages, and everyone has a beautiful family and a gorgeous dog, and they're sitting against a bed of bluebonnets or in a pumpkin patch, and everything's perfect. I really don't feel like all of us are there, and I want to kind of get a sense from you guys. Are all of you executing successful digital transformation strategies that are already showing return on value? We got a hand or two over here. Well done. Well done. I think most of us are kind of in that initiating phase. And this speech is really geared towards talking about the moment you realize eventually is now. DX is happening, and where is your plan? So, when my company said, yep, let's do this, I was a little bit kind of shocked. I'd pitched a good pitch. I'd been promoting digital transformation for a while, but I didn't realize they were ready to invest. And so I had to take a couple steps back. And I'm trying to get a sense from you guys, where were you when you realized the moment was now? I took several deep breaths. Looks like these two gentlemen probably maybe initiated a celebratory dance. Some of us needed to, hey Alexa, or okay Google, what is DX? And some of us, we had a plan, we dusted it off, we summoned the troops, and we were ready to go. But for a lot of us, it's just not the case. We have a lot of traditional barriers in our jobs as IT professionals that we had to overcome before we could really move forward in DX. Those include inflexible systems. I mean, I just finished an ERP upgrade. I'm not ready for DX. In other cases, we've got organizational challenges. We don't have the right team. We have skills mismatches. In a lot of cases, it's my favorite thing to blame. I've got an overbearing CISO over here who's not letting me do this thing. We can't move that data over here. So there's sometimes a lot of institutional barriers that we have to overcome to even start DX. We also have our traditional operational workload. We have to manage the priorities of DX versus continuous improvement, making sure we've got reliable systems, making sure we know how to support, we can provide appropriate support to our business applications. And then, hey, will our infrastructure, our services, our support, our team, will even scale to support DX? Those are kind of the first set of challenges you absolutely have to overcome before we can even think about how we'll successfully lead a DX strategy. I'm gonna ask another question. How many in the room are DX leaders who are not running the IT teams? Are all of you in IT leading DX? Okay, that's awesome. There are, in many cases, you find DX leaders who are not actually in your IT teams. And I'd say to those leaders, hug your IT teams, because there's a lot of work that they have to do before they can even get started. So let's dig into the 5 key success factors from my perspective on what makes a successful DX strategy and implementation. First being that you have real business opportunity and advocacy, that you have a strong team, you show true return on value quickly, that you have a thoughtful communication and change management plan, and that you have defined objectives with expected outcomes. And I like a lot of engagement, so if you have any questions at any moment, raise your hands. I'd love to have an open dialogue. All right, So business opportunity and executive advocacy. This is what I call not doing IT for IT. A lot of us heard DX, got real excited and said, great, we're going to modernize our infrastructure in IT. That's not what this is about. It's about finding a real business problem and getting support from a business leader outside of IT often. I think about one of the most successful digital transformation programs that I ran. It was just really, really on a light team. It was with the VP of HR and 2 part-time developers. And we ended up developing an app to improve employee engagement around performance management, 365-degree feedback, and actually making sure that there was good kudos. And it was interesting because when we finished it, it literally was like an app like Tinder. You could swipe and give someone good kudos or feedback that their leader got pretty quickly. And it was just because we had a really, really engaged and enthusiastic HR leader and team that gave us all these ideas, and just threw 2 people at it, and a month and a half later, we had this awesome idea that really transformed performance management and employee engagement, and really customer satisfaction from the technology teams. And so it was a really, really easy way to get an increased level of engagement, but it wasn't something that I could drive as from an IT leadership perspective. I had to partner with HR to actually make sure that we did the right thing and we were solving the right set of problems. Any thoughts or questions on that? Okay. Implementation team. This is a sure way to fail. If you do not choose the right set of people, if you inherit all the people that no one performance managed, your DX strategy will fail. It's important to choose an A team that's experienced, that has shown, that actually has leadership qualities, that has demonstrated that they can lead a team, that is highly resilient. I'll kind of confess some things about myself. When I, probably about 5 to 10 years ago, I was in the stage of my career where I was very risk averse. I wanted to do things that were known and true, and it was absolutely predictable that it would succeed. I would have been a horrible person to add to a team. This is a team that needs to take moonshots. This is a team that needs to be strategic about the risk that they take, but they do need to be dreamers. And so if you don't choose the team full of people who are energetic and enthusiastic and who actually do have some results under their belt so that the organization respects them, you're not setting yourself up for success. And so really, this is one of the key elements, that you have to choose a strong implementation team led by a visionary leader. It should be cross-functional so that you can have lots of different perspectives weighing in on the problems that you're solving. You should get a C-level sponsor, not just the CIO, too. And then where it's appropriate, making sure you have kind of advisory teams or SMEs that are guiding the direction of this team. Thoughts or questions? I'm going to walk into the audience at some point and just make somebody raise their hand and ask a question. All right, also, return on investment. So if you don't know anything about Agile or Lean, start reading. This is all about minimum viable products. You have got to make sure very quickly you return value and demonstrate value back to the organization. And if you fail, you have to fail fast. Digital transformation is said to happen 5 times faster than normal business development or releases. And so it's the expectation is that you're hearing back and you're demonstrating value as quickly as possible. One of the things that I think about when I consider how to, I'm standing in front, when I consider how to ensure that we return value quickly is being really, really clear about what the objectives are and what your success measures are. When I set out to, let's say, I'm going to use that same example, do that performance management solution, we decided that it has to be under a certain amount of money. And so we decided we were only willing to make a $30,000 investment in developing that app. And really quickly, it was interesting enough, when we created it with an outside firm, that firm told us they'd pay $100,000 and let us relicense it back to them. And so that was really, really easy for us to demonstrate, okay, we returned returned the value on the investment immediately, but then we were able to measure quickly that, hey, we had a higher level of engagement. So making sure that there's clear, quantifiable metrics to demonstrate that there is a return on value is essential for digital transformation. Thoughts or questions? All right. Communication and change management, also an essential factor. As IT leaders and digital transformation leaders, we are responsible for a set of humans that are going to actually do most of the work. And it's essential that we take care with these humans because we're likely changing how they work in the future. For instance, I'll make up a scenario where, I'll give a real scenario, where let's say we were upgrading an ERP system, and so there was a set of people whose job would be very different because we deployed some new functionality into this ERP. We needed those people to give us the requirements and to understand what the outcome would be and actually test with us. Yet we also were basically eliminating their jobs as they knew it. That kind of work means that you have to be very careful in communication and the change management of that team. We were transparent about that we own that this is going to change how they do their jobs and what skill sets they need to do their jobs. And as a result, they participated and were actually encouraged by the fact that their job would get better as a result of that change. I had a situation also where we were doing some exception management around our service catalog, and there was a team member who had an idea about transformation, but it basically was going to eliminate her whole job. And so we partnered as we rolled out our digital transformation strategy and said, look, if you come up with an idea that is so good that somehow it changes your job or other people's jobs, we will find them better jobs. And so we made a plan of that transition when we implemented her transformational idea that actually really gave her more strategic and more important work to do. And so I think it's really, really important as you manage digital transformation, being transparent about we know that we're moving your cheese. And there's going to be some better cheese, not just cheddar. Maybe, I don't know, what's better cheese than cheddar? Some awesome, awesome better cheese over here as a result of that change. And so you have to make sure that you cultivate an atmosphere and an environment where people are going to feel rewarded when they are part of transformation, especially if it means that you're changing what they do. The other thing that I realized when in areas where we weren't really good about that transparency or forthright is that teams can tend to campaign against an idea if they realize that it's going to affect an element of their role. And what we found, I call it an autoimmune response. When you get that autoimmune response, it's time to stop and just ask people to kind of bear with you as you start working on your communication campaigns. But it is essential that you are transparent, because when you change human people's lives, and I call them human people just to kind of reiterate, they're humans and they have feelings, and change usually is hard, and so we have to take great care in changing what they do. Yes, please.
So you see, I have to be very careful. I'm wondering if you could maybe share some real-world strategies about affecting a cultural shift when there is resistance.
Okay, so I'll elaborate on what we ended up doing when we realized there was a team that was going to absolutely have a different dynamic or a different role or a different skill, need a different skill set. We established a program that first we funded a program that actually rewarded ideas. And so we started with, there was a couple of things we did. We would call for ideas twice a year, and then there would be some kind of financial reward, or in some cases we would give time off awards. So that's kind of the first thing that kind of asks for people to invites the whole organization into a conversation around transformation. The second thing we did is say, if your idea absolutely changes your job function, we promise to give you another job, especially if specifically when it comes in and it's their idea. When it wasn't their idea and maybe it was another team member's idea, and it would affect that job function, we were really clear, like, whoa, we're gonna do an impact analysis up front. We think this is a great idea. I'm actually gonna speak to my next slide. We know before we move something forward, we need to know what the expected outcome is. So it's a real business impact analysis on human people, on a human people layer, that says, okay, we think this now means that we're not going to need this skill set anymore. So we're gonna start the retraining of this skill set. And in some cases, some people decided, hey, it may be time for me to move on. I still like this skill set. I'll take it somewhere else. But we had really, really open conversations and dialogues. And in some cases, we even had to do retention. We had to kind of pay some type of retention period so that we could get through a transition with them. But I think when you're super, super transparent and open about what's happening, and really just, I sat down with my team, like, this is going to change what you've done for the last 10, 15 years. I get it. I know it. It's scary. Let's talk about how we make it right. And so I think just being transparent about it, and then you can kind of plan programs around it, but just as good leaders, I think we just have to be transparent. Thank you for that question. And then I was starting to touch on this, having defined and expected outcomes. You have to take care, because changing things, I've seen situations where a transformation had a great outcome for a particular business and improved their productivity by this much. It actually affected revenue. Like, that is the worst possible outcome. And so you have to be really, really thoughtful about what you are expecting in transformation to happen, and be really, one, comfortable, transparent about it, but also make sure that the organization accepts that expected result. In IT, we generally expect that those outcomes or those particular objectives should be around improving experience of our customers or our users, streamlining business processes, optimizing our infrastructure, or simplifying processes, or providing analytics to make better decisions. That said, that partnered with a business problem. Once we solve that business problem, let's say we solve it for finance, but we create another problem for HR, not good. So we have to be really, really thoughtful about what that expected outcome is, and make sure it's acceptable by the company as a whole. Okay, so those are the 5 kind of key elements of digital transformation, or key success factors from my perspective. The thing that I want to impart or leave you guys with is that I was worried, and I was worried for cause. Transformation is real. DX or die is true. I mean, we've heard it probably said throughout this conference. If we don't transform, we're going to either be prey, be less relevant, or not do the right things by our business. And it's incumbent upon us as IT leaders and digital transformation leaders to provide the strategic plans to our business and execute them successfully, so that we will succeed in the future. So if you haven't realized it, eventually is now. Most of the analysts suggest that by 2018, if you are not successfully executing your digital transformation strategy, you are behind. Forrester says that by 2020, you're either predator or prey. And so if you haven't figured it out, it's time. And I'll leave you with this very last slide about how to begin. First, assess where you are. Assess not just where you are as a company, but where you are in your industry, because some industries may have a little bit more time. Benchmark against that. And then figure out where you want to be. You're going to need to take stock in your culture, the culture of your industry, your overall readiness, the level of potential resistance you may have to overcome at your company, and also if you have some of those initial barriers that I talked about earlier around having to just pay some technical debt, factor that in. So as you chart your course, make sure you understand where you want to go and then what you have to do to actually get there. By all means, get moving. There's no time. If you do nothing right now, you are absolutely signing up. 1, you're signing yourselves up to not be successful as IT leaders, but 2, you're crippling your companies. And there's going to be a lot of work to garner not just acceptance, but garner support for some of these ideas. And so you start doing that now. And then track your progress. This is essential. To get additional investments back into your DX strategies, you have to prove that it has been successful. You have to be transparent where it's not successful, so people don't feel like you just got a big old bag of cash and something will come out of it one day. We have to demonstrate success, and you want to track it. You want to show that it's progressing so that you can actually get additional investments in this area. That's all I have for you guys. Any additional questions? Well, I thank you all for your time. This was fun.